The spooky season is upon us, which means that it's time to dive into the more disturbing enemies of Elden Ring. This time around, we're going to focus on some of the scarier concepts found in the Land of Shadow. And unfortunately, I've already discussed the jar innards in our video on Marika, so here's some footage of the actual most disgusting thing in this DLC. That aside, we're going to kick off our Scary Terror Gaming episodes with an enemy you may find unsettling due to the way their bodies move as if they're straight out of a horror movie. The Curseblades were one of the first still images we were given ramping up to the release of Shadow of the Erdtree, and these horrifically bent over horn-scent ascetics are a creeping threat throughout our time exploring this land. You never know when you will turn a corner and have one of these terrifyingly powerful enemies cut you to ribbons. Join us as we break down what they are and what they strove to be long ago. Welcome back to Elden Lore, our weekly series where we unveil the stories of the people, places, and horrors of the lands between and the Land of Shadow. If this is your first time finding the channel, welcome, and thanks for joining us for this lore dive. With over 140 episodes in our playlist, we're confident you can find whatever lore you're looking for, but if not, let us know what you'd like to see in the comments and I can promise we'll see it. We have a Discord where fans of the channel come together to talk about their favorite lore and theories across the Land of Shadow, as well as find help with builds and strategies. If you end up liking the video, you could always subscribe so you get notified when our next lore dive comes out. But no pressure, your viewership is always more than enough for us. With that said, let's get back to the story at hand. When entering the Land of Shadow, there's a strong possibility that the first enemy to attack you will be a Curseblade. It hops off its perch and dances towards you, spinning its blades ready to cut you down. This enemy is hunched over, its spine an upside-down V, but it seems this stance is merely part of the dance, as it elongates its body as it fights. The Curseblades use their form of dance to put you off guard, and make you second-guess when to attack and when to dodge, keeping you off balance. Any of these enemies can drop the ascetic set, and their loincloth gives us details on who they are. Attire of the Tower's ascetics, embodying their commitment to an austere existence of strict self-control. In order to ascend from their mortal flesh into tutelary deities of the land, they heighten their spirituality through severe ascetic training. When it says they partook in severe ascetic training, it's important we define what that means. To be an ascetic means practicing strict self-denial as a measure of personal and especially spiritual discipline. And we're going to explain what that means for the Curseblades momentarily. The term has come up once before in Elden Ring, when referring to Elamir of the Briar, the bell-bearing hunter. But there seems to be no connection between his homeland of Eocade, that was a proud land of ascetics, and the Land of Shadow. The Curseblade mask draws an interesting connection between these enemies and the Horned Warriors, as it seems they practice the same divinity for different reasons. A mask affixed with a crown of tangled horns, worn by those who would invoke divinity. Divine invocation heightens the dexterity of the wearer, but causes the blessing of the Erdtree to become nauseating, reducing the restorative effect of drinking from a flask of sacred tears. Focus is also troubled while wearing this mask. The Horned Warriors practiced divine invocation, but this was as a way to bring themselves closer to the divine, so that they may one day become sculpted keepers, unlike the Curseblades, who wish to become tutelary deities. Presumably, another aspect to becoming one of these deities was to ritualistically harm oneself, as we learned from the Curseblade's Circuit. Weapon of the masked Curseblades: circular backhand blade with wave-like cutting edges, sharpened into points that incite blood loss. Long ago, this was employed by the ascetics who strove to become tutelary deities as a ritualistic object in their self-flagellating dances. In order to truly understand their goal, there's only one item we can look to, the only other item to mention these tutelary deities: revered spirit ash. Spirit ash of those who came before, infused with potent spirituality, acquired from the corpses of Hornscent and other objects that ritually decorate townships and villages across the realm of shadow. Consume these at sites of grace to bolster your revered spirit ash blessing. The revered spirit ash blessing bolsters both summoned spirits and spectral steeds' abilities to deal and negate damage, but has no influence outside the realm of shadow. The withered corpses were called tutelary deities, and revered spirit ash was said to quietly accumulate in the palm of their hands. So this was the original pursuit of the Curseblades. Those that succeeded in their practice of divine invocation became the very statues, or as we now know, corpses, where we find revered spirit ash. It would seem that through their ascetic practices, they would abstain from everything, even food and water, choosing instead to sit perfectly still so that they may one day accumulate revered spirit ash. However, it seems those we do battle with failed in their pursuits and were punished for their failure. We can face Curseblade Labyrinth in the depths of the Bonnie Jail, and upon defeating him, we receive the ashes of Curseblade Mea. These ashes tell us they are ashen remains in which spirits yet dwell, used to summon the spirit of Curseblade Mea. Curseblades appear to dance when they spin their shimmering circular blades. These ascetics who failed to become tutelary deities were a scourge for those who attempted to invade the Horn-sent homeland. Long ago, before the land was overshadowed by invasion, this scourge was shunned, and the Curseblades were imprisoned. It was during this confinement that Mea met Labyrinth, and upon her death, Labyrinth was plunged into a devastating darkness. What I gather from these ashes is that before Mesmer began his march against the Land of Shadow, Curseblades were kept imprisoned in the many jails across the land due to their failure in becoming tutelary deities, and Labyrinth and Mea were imprisoned together, becoming deeply connected friends, or possibly falling in love. When Mesmer attacked, it seems as though the Curseblades were conscripted to fight for the Horn-sent, given a chance to redeem themselves for their failures, but Labyrinth chose to stay in the Bonnie Jail, with nothing left to live for after Mea passed on. It's unknown why a failure to become a tutelary deity carried such a harsh sentencing, but we can see how deeply respected they were with the many corpses holding revered spirit ash across the land. Something you'll notice when coming across these mummified remains is that most of them have their heads cut off, and I'm willing to bet this is the work of Mesmer's forces, showing outright disdain for the spiritual practices of the Horn-sent. It's only in areas these forces didn't reach, such as Bellarat Tower and Enir Alim, where they retain their heads, no longer wearing their masks, now having their own large, glorious horns sprouting from their skulls. Perhaps it was their failure to sprout large horns of their own that caused the rest of the Horn-sent to lock them away. Their dancing rituals and weapons of self-flagellation came to serve a new purpose after fire began to spread across their lands. It seems the Horn-sent were so desperate in their struggle that allowing those who failed them in their faith to serve on the battlefield was considered acceptable. Perhaps this was their chance to prove they could still be of use after all. I find it interesting that the Curseblades who failed in shunning the physical world in the pursuit of becoming tutelary deities, and were locked away for not being able to endure what the process entailed, seem to have taken to their new role as defenders of their land. The Curseblades could have just as easily turned against their jailers after their release, but they didn't. I believe this means these horrifying creatures actually believe that they deserve to be locked away for failing the other Horn-sent, for failing their faith, and now that they have a new position, they do not plan to fail their people again. These elongated dancers will hunt any who mean to harm the Land of Shadows, and we need to watch our backs, because you never know when one of these masked monstrosities is hiding just past the next wall, or ready to strike from above, cutting into your flesh the same way they once cut into their own. Thank you for joining us for this breakdown of the Curseblades, the first in this year's Scary Terror Gaming Spooky Season series. Why do you think FromSoft teased us with an image of the Curseblades before the release of Shadow of the Erdtree? The statues of tutelary deities seem to be sitting just fine, So what caused the Curseblade's horrifying posture? What exactly do you think being a dedicated ascetic entailed for these Hornsen? Let us know your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and set notifications to all so you never miss out on any of our lore dives. We look forward to seeing you again for more Elden Lore.